This is a normal highway in Grand Theft Auto 4. And this is what happens when you turn that traffic up to 100 times its normal speed. Unfortunately, you can't speed up traffic like this for yourself in real life without getting several life sentences. So I settled for the next best thing and set out to answer one simple question. Could you beat Grand Theft Auto 4 if traffic was 100 times faster? To make matters worse, I have never played this game in my entire life, which means my first ever playthrough of GTA 4 takes place in a world where cars travel at breakneck speeds, crossing any street becomes a life or death game of Frogger, and getting anywhere in the city becomes a survival horror game where turning any corner can spell your death. Welcome to GTA 4 with the 100 times faster traffic. We start fresh off the boat as Niko Bellic, a very suave ex-soldier trying to change his life in the big city and find a very special someone. We then meet up with his cousin Roman, who constantly asks, and runs a taxi business that I end up working for with his girlfriend Mallory. After completing a couple of missions and getting used to driving in the equivalent of a citywide F1 race, I had to start expanding my network. I met Little Jacob, a man who's 50% dreadlocks and 50% Za, who gave me my first gun. Boink! Which is great because bullets are the only thing in the city that can move faster than cars. And somehow I actually started meeting women. Everything was going great until I started doing missions outside of the taxi business. See, my first day in Liberty City taught me just how terrifying this challenge would truly be, where all I had to do was take my date Michelle and drop her off afterwards. Seemed simple enough until I realized that there were a lot of cars on the road. Like, a lot. To the point where you couldn't go 5 seconds without seeing a fleet of cars fly off into the sunset, or pedestrians getting squashed like bugs. And I was no exception. On the way to the bowling alley, the car would get absolutely decimated. And if we were lucky enough to get to the bowling alley in one piece, the car that we drove in would have either been launched into the stratosphere, or my date would just magically disappear. Everything had to go right for me to even think about completing this mission. After many attempts and PC crashes, I frankly felt my brain turning into a pile of goo. So some compromises had to be made. You may have noticed that not every car on the road is moving at Mach 10 speeds. That's because in order to even come close to completing this challenge, I've changed every vehicle involved in the story to move at its normal speed. So this doesn't happen every time I get into a car.
A few moments later.
We have reached the event horizon.
The following day.
Okay. What the? And my PC would crash less, but still crash. I also changed utility cars like police cruisers and taxis to allow for police chases, and to call taxis to get in them, or more realistically, steal them. Anyways, as I was finally getting comfortable in the city, Roman's problems started to become my problems as well, including Vlad, who was asking me to help him with some odd jobs to pay off Roman's debt. I do a little bit of intimidation here, a little bit of homicide there, until I realized that I'm basically a murderous unpaid intern doing insane overtime, and Vlad was just using me to do his dirty work. To make matters worse, he's been messing around with Mallory, Roman's girlfriend. This gave me the perfect excuse to execute Vlad. I mean, get revenge for Roman. So we chased down Vlad through the dangerous streets of Liberty City, barely living through the traffic, to finally catch up with him and kill him. Roman, for some reason, thinks we're fucked now, but there totally won't be any consequences to our actions, right? Right? Feeling good after getting Vlad off our backs, I met up with Roman to find him hiding in a trash can. Apparently he thinks that some people have been following him, and oh shit. Oh, the consequences of our actions. We wake up to meet Dimitri and Faustin, who just so happened to be Vlad's boss. He seems to not be terribly mad that we killed Vlad. Okay, maybe he's kind of mad, but he wants me to prove my usefulness to him, so he's probably not that mad. As I go out to run their errands in the middle of the night, I make a discovery that changed the entire trajectory of this run. At night, it was of course quiet, but a little too quiet. Then it clicked for me. People sleep at night, meaning there's less people outside. Less people outside means less drivers on the road, and less drivers on the road means less road rockets trying to turn me into red mist. As obvious as that realization was, it was going to come in very handy for many missions during this run. So after discovering that and stealing some TVs, confirm the mission complete. Niko, please. Niko, please.
It was at this moment that he knew he fucked up.
No. I come back to Faustin's estate to witness Dimitri and him, who are supposedly best friends, having what can only be described as a lover's quarrel. But it was enough to make me realize that Faustin is a drugged up maniac that totally won't be an issue for us in the future. After proving my usefulness to Faustin through several acts of completely senseless but fun violence, I gained his trust. And one day, he asked me to kill someone who's been giving him trouble, but I have to drive a particular truck to get to him. Simple enough. I get to the truck only to realize that I wasn't going to drive any normal truck. No, my friends. I was driving a literal bomb. This was going to be a big problem. I would say a truck-sized one to be specific. And seeing as almost every car on the road travels at the speed of sound, this is what happens shortly after I start driving the truck. What makes this even worse is that I had to drive the truck from here over this bridge all the way to over here. Shit. So I drove the truck again, straight over. And again. And again. And again, and again, and again, and again, and again, only to realize that once I got onto the bridge, this would happen. Okay, no cars behind me right now. I just gotta be careful. What? Even though no cars were remotely close to me when I got onto the bridge, I would still get absolutely decimated by them as if they appeared behind me from thin air. After countless attempts, I thought my brain would once again turn into a pile of goo. But instead, an idea hit me like a 2-ton car. What if I just looked behind myself as I drive over the bridge? I had a feeling cars were spawning behind me instead of traveling all the way across Liberty City to hit me like a heat-seeking missile, and I had nothing to lose. So I tried it, and surprisingly enough, it worked. I guess in GTA 4 and most video games, cars or anything for that matter, don't spawn in the direction you're looking in for immersion reasons or something like that. This tech finally allowed me to drive over the bridge without blowing up to smithereens. I was then able to keep the truck just barely healthy enough to commit this absolutely devious act of terrorism for Faustin. Doing something so cartoonishly evil shook me to my core. So I went to visit Roman's friend Brucey, who has a bit of a substance problem, to get the taste of the bombing out of my mouth, and did a couple missions for him. He tells me to find and murk a guy using the computer and a police car to get his home address. I figured it'd be a quick pit stop, but I ended up going on a wild goose chase with him, where it felt like I was chasing one of the warp speed cars instead of a normal one. He ends up juking the shit out of me, and I lose him. Not good. So I prepare myself for another crazy chase in the second attempt, only for this to happen. It turns out that driving in the opposite direction of traffic, especially with it moving 100 times faster, isn't really such a good idea. And bro learned that the hard way. I end up doing more missions for Brucey, with one involving stealing a car where I learned 2 very valuable lessons. 1. Don't steal cars from gangsters.
No risks, Brucey? Maybe this juicing is fucking with your head.
And 2, if you do end up stealing cars from anyone, especially gangsters, you can just use them as human shields against all of the other cars of mass destruction on the road. After getting the taste of the truck bombing out of my mouth, I met up with Dimitri, who posed an interesting philosophical question. Kill your best friend, or be killed by them? I knew exactly what he meant in that moment, but who was going to kill Faustin? I didn't like Faustin anyways, so I show up to the club he runs, mow everyone inside down, and finally execute Faustin for being such a huge pain in my ass. Dimitri lets me know to meet him at a warehouse, alone, to pick up my reward for killing his best friend. Totally not sus at all. So I brought little Jacob along as backup, and to absolutely nobody's surprise, it was a massive setup. The situation shortly broke out into a firefight against an army of goons, but honestly, after getting killed by endless amounts of cars on the road, and getting murked in the most nonsensical ways imaginable, this didn't scare me. In fact, I actually felt emboldened. So Jacob and I fight through the warehouse, and by the time we cleared the place out, Dimitri and his buds were gone. But due to the immense influence Dimitri has, Roman and I had to move out, and fast. I picked Roman up and began driving off to a safe house in another borough, only to find out that they not only destroyed our apartment, but Roman's taxi business as well. This meant war. But since we literally have nothing to our name now, it was time to make money by doing what I know how to do best, being Liberty City's friendly neighborhood hitman. Mallory then decides to introduce me to Elizabetta, who happens to be one of the biggest drug lords in all of Liberty City, and introduces me to Packy, who will be very important moving forward. Despite being a level 100 drug lord though, she is losing her mind from police pressure, so she sends me off to complete a high-stakes Coca-Cola deal. But before I can even sniff this deal, the big leagues officially call my number, and the game opens up Algonquin, Liberty City's version of Manhattan. And oh boy, does this place completely escalate the challenge. If you thought the traffic was bad before, driving in Manhattan with 100 times faster traffic is an absolute survival horror game. No! What? In other boroughs, the short streets and tight corners acted like natural shields from the vehicular purge. But Manhattan is a wide open, straight line concrete jungle of utter chaos. These long avenues give cars maximum runway to reach terminal velocity and straight up achieve liftoff. But as it turns out, surviving the supersonic commute was only half the battle. The exact millisecond I arrived at the location to get the deal done, everything went completely sideways. Because surprise, surprise, the dealers were actually cops, and I had to fight my way out of the ambush. After barely surviving the shootout and escaping the police, I thought I'd catch a break. However, this massive failure got Elizabetta to, frankly, start tweaking. To make matters even worse, she had just been ripped off by a contact of Little Jacobs. Now completely desperate, she forced me right back into the Manhattan meat grinder. All I needed to do was get her Coca-Cola back from Jacobs' contact and bring it all the way back over here. Seemed like light work, no reaction. Except at the moment you pick up the Coca-Cola after killing all the goons protecting it, the SWAT team appears. Shit. After multiple grueling attempts, no! I finally escaped the grasp of the police and all of the cars on the road trying to end my life. I make it to the spot to drop the Coca-Cola off, only to see Michelle there. And it just so happens that Michelle was working for the government the entire time. I felt betrayed, stepped on. Getting hit head-on by a Lightspeed city bus hurt less than that. Needing an outlet for all of my pent-up anger, I started working with Packy, and I do what he says until I prove my usefulness to him. Then Packy asks me to help him and his brothers rob the Bank of Liberty City. We get to the bank, unload the vault, and fight through a couple of blocks filled with police. Everything was going great until it was time to actually get away. We had 3 stars on us and tried to shake it off by laying low right outside of a building that turned out to be a government facility. Instead of losing the cops, my wanted level instantly jumped to 4 stars, triggering what can only be described as an O.J. Simpson level car chase. I actually managed to lose the cops and was left with a small loan of $250,000 in my bank account. After doing a bunch of other mob jobs that didn't involve me getting flattened by flying cars, my favorite backstabber, Michelle, gives me a call. I meet up with her at a government building where she introduces me to her boss, a guy whose identity is so deeply classified that he's essentially the human embodiment of fully redacted files. I do a couple of missions for Mr. Redacted, and it ends up paying off. However, not in actual cash. He tracks down Darko Brevich, the special someone I've been looking for since I stepped foot in Liberty City. He's promised to fly him into the country just for me. So while I waited for the delivery to happen, I had a little fun with the warp speed vehicles where I bounced off the walls of skyscrapers like I'm in a citywide pinball machine, jumped out of a flying car and somehow gained 6 stars, observed the laws of physics be violated with cars phasing through walls, tried driving in first person mode to see how it would feel to be a piece of clothing in a washing machine, and I absolutely hated it. Drove a boat and ended up waterboarding Nico all the way to the edge of the map. Accidentally teleported a boat into the streets of Liberty City and reached the ozone layer off of sheer horsepower. I finally get the call from Mr. Redacted telling me that they've delivered the man I've been looking for into the city. I arrive at the drop-off spot only for Darko to tell us that he betrayed our friends because he got $1,000 out of it. Out of the goodness of my heart, I decided not to kill him and let him go. Psych! Then, the final boss, Jimmy Pecorino, called me up to help with a high-stakes drug deal with my arch-nemesis, Dimitri. But I decided to do my own thing, and got my sweet, sweet revenge on Dimitri. With all of my ops dead, I could finally move on with my life, and I found a special someone to spend it with. And she's dead. Turns out, Jimmy wasn't so happy I killed Dimitri behind his back, but I wasn't gonna let him get away with this. Jacob and Roman find out where he is, and I go in killing every single goon in my way until he tries to escape by boat. The rest of the mission was pretty simple. All I had to do
was follow the damn train, CJ.
I mean, follow the boat on a motorbike. As soon as my road is about to run out, Jacob and Roman fly in on a helicopter that I miraculously hop into. I finally corner Jimmy and kill him, which thus marks the end of Grand Theft Auto 4. So to answer the question, can you beat Grand Theft Auto 4 with 100 times faster traffic? You will suffer a lot, but yes you can. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hype it up on mobile and like and subscribe.